Let's be honest, our world has become loud. Everyone wants to talk. Everyone wants to be heard. But not many people know when to stay silent. The truth is, in a room full of noise, the quietest person often holds the most power because silence makes people pay attention. It creates space. It makes others feel your presence without you needing to say a word. And here's the real secret. When you speak too quickly, you risk losing control. But when you stay quiet, you stay in control. The Stoics understood this deeply. They knew that silence, when used at the right time, can speak louder than anything you could say. So in this video, we're going to look at 9 powerful situations where saying nothing isn't just smart, it's one of the most powerful moves you can make. Some people think being silent means being weak, that if you don't speak up, you're afraid or unsure. But that's not what Stoicism teaches. To the Stoics, silence is not fear, it's control. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in history, didn't waste time arguing with people who didn't matter. He focused on what he could control: his thoughts, his actions, his energy. And Epictetus said it clearly: "You are disturbed not by events, but by your opinion about them." In other words, it's not what happens that upsets us, it's how we choose to react. And silence, that's a choice, a strong one. It means you're not reacting out of emotion. You're thinking clearly. You're staying centered. In a loud world that wants you to speak without thinking, choosing silence is power. So let's break it down. Here are 9 moments when keeping your mouth shut is not just wise, it's what sets you apart from everyone else. Have you ever been attacked, not with fists, but with words? Words that twist your truth, that turn people against you, that shrink your name into a whisper, a rumor. It's a unique kind of betrayal, especially when it's public, especially when you've done nothing wrong. Your instinct screams for justice. You want to explain. You want to correct. You want to fight back. But what if I told you that silence could be your sharpest weapon? The Stoics believed this control isn't about how fast you respond. It's about how long you can hold your silence. Most people defend too quickly. They speak too much. They let emotion take the wheel. And in doing so, they lose the frame. But a Stoic doesn't give up control. They hold the frame by holding their tongue. Picture this. You're in a team meeting, and someone publicly blames you for something you didn't do. They speak with confidence even when they're wrong. For a split second, the room believes them. Your stomach turns. Your face gets hot. Your mind prepares a comeback. But instead, you breathe. You sit still. You let the accusation hang in the air without rushing to break it. Because deep down, you know the truth. And, more importantly, you know how to carry it. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Don't waste time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. You don't have to defend your character. You live it. You prove it over time." Because rushing to explain often makes you look uncertain, but calm silence, that makes you look untouchable. Let's switch scenes. Imagine a boxing match. One fighter's throwing wild punches, fast, loud, emotional. The other still, composed, dodging, not reacting, the attacker begins to tire. Each punch less precise, less powerful, and the calm fighter he's reading, waiting, conserving. That's what silence does. It drains the attacker, while building your advantage. Epictetus said, "We are not disturbed by things, but by the view we take of them." It's not the insult that cuts you, it's the meaning you give it. So give it no weight, no entry, no permission. Let it pass through, like wind, like noise you've already outgrown. And if you can, try this shift in mindset. Don't take the attack personally. Take it as data. Their lies, their accusations, signals, information, revealing more about them than about you. So when someone attacks, don't react. Observe. They're telling you everything you need to know if you're quiet enough to hear it. Let me share something real. A friend of mine, Daniel, got caught in a nasty workplace rumor. Someone accused him of manipulating reports. Completely false. And worse, people believed it. His first instinct, email the whole company, defend himself, correct the lie. But instead, he stayed quiet, kept showing up, kept doing the work. Day after day, clean numbers, clear timelines, quiet consistency. And over time, the truth outlasted the lie. Because Daniel never dropped to the level of his attacker, he rose above it by refusing to give the lie more oxygen. That's Stoic strategy. You don't fight noise with more noise. You fight it with presence. You don't chase rumors. You bury them with results. People expect you to react. They rely on it. They feed off the energy. But when you give them nothing, just stillness, just presence, you disrupt their rhythm. You break their script. They don't know what to do with someone who refuses to play the game. And in that disruption, you take control. Silence is not weakness. Silence is patience. It's saving your words for when they matter most. It's knowing the difference between a fight for your ego and a move for your legacy. And when it's time to respond, do it with precision. No anger, no drama, no over-explaining. Just calm facts, simple proof, final energy. Then walk away. Because here's a truth the Stoics knew well. You don't need to fight every battle. You only need to win the right ones. Some people will never understand your silence. That's fine. Let them talk. Let them twist. You stay consistent. You keep showing up. You keep building. And in the long run, they fade. You rise. That's how character always wins. Not in the spotlight, but in the shadows where you stayed calm and steady and unshaken. So next time someone comes for your name, pause. Don't react. Don't explain. Don't argue. Just breathe. Watch. Wait. Let their words hang in the air and collapse under their own weight. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is absolutely nothing. You've been there. A group conversation, a gathering, a meeting at work, and then someone starts speaking. Loud, confident, overflowing with their wins. The deal they closed, the property they bought, the visionary insight they had last year. You didn't ask, but they make sure you hear it anyway. And for a moment, You feel small. You scan your memory trying to match their level, wondering if staying silent makes you look invisible. But here's what the Stoics knew, and what most people forget. The louder someone speaks about themselves, the more unsure they are of who they truly are. Boasting isn't about truth. It's projection. Noise wrapped around fear. Fear that without applause, they'll vanish. Fear that silence will reveal their hollowness. Fear that if they stop performing, no one will watch. And fear, according to the Stoics, is always the enemy of clarity. Marcus Aurelius never bragged. And yet, he ruled the greatest empire in the world. Why? Because true greatness doesn't seek the spotlight. It simply holds its ground. So what do you do when someone around you won't stop flexing? You don't challenge them. You don't list your resume. You don't match their volume. You do something far more powerful. You stay silent. You nod. And you let them talk. We call it tactical nodding. It's not approval. It's not submission. It's strategy. You give them space to reveal exactly what they're trying to hide. Because the more they speak, the more they expose their obsession with admiration, their dependence on status, their hunger for comparison. And your silence, it becomes a mirror, one they can't manipulate. Stoicism teaches us to escape the status game, that invisible race to prove who's higher. Richer, louder. The moment you speak to keep up, you've entered their game. And in doing so, you lose sight of your own. Seneca said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor." Boasting is craving, and craving is poverty of the mind. The man who constantly announces his value fears it will be forgotten, but the one who remains quiet has already decided who he is. Let me give you a moment. A man walks into a room. Everyone's bragging. Big watches, big deals, big names. He sits, listens, smiles. He doesn't interrupt, doesn't correct, doesn't try to impress. And slowly, the room shifts. People start looking at him, wondering why he isn't performing. That's the gravity of someone who doesn't need to prove, because what's real doesn't rush to be seen. Let's go deeper. When someone brags, your reaction reveals your self-awareness. If you feel inferior, you'll want to compete. But if you feel grounded, you'll simply observe. That's Stoic presence. Not passive, powerful. You don't measure your worth by comparison. You measure it by how little you need to compare. So here's your strategy. Next time you're at that table, the flexing begins. Name dropping, story spinning, stat boasting. You sip your drink. You nod. You ask no follow-up questions. Your disinterest becomes your boundary. And that silence, it becomes substance. Soon enough, they'll start wondering who you are, why you're so calm, why you're not trying. Because people admire what they don't understand. And silence, when backed by presence, becomes mysterious. That's not ego. That's earned gravity. Epictetus reminds us, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. So let them think you're quiet. Let them assume, because the more you say nothing, the more they wonder. And that wonder, that's influence. Boasting belongs to people still trying to prove who they are. You. You've already decided. You don't need to convince. You just move. And every step you take in silence builds weight. Let them talk. Let them chase applause. You'll build legacy in the quiet corners they'll never notice, until it's too late. By the time they look up, you've already moved beyond reach. That's Stoicism. Not silence as absence, but silence as position. So the next time someone tries to impress you with titles, money, fame, power, don't flinch. Don't argue. Don't compete. Just listen. And when they're done, simply nod. Because in that moment, you've done something they don't yet know how to do. You've mastered yourself. 3. You've been there. When someone crossed the line, looked you in the eye and disrespected you like you were nothing. They said the thing they knew would cut deepest. And it worked. It hit where it still hurts. Where you thought you had healed, but hadn't. Your instinct. To strike. To destroy. To say something that would ruin them. Because for 1 second, you didn't care about your values. You just wanted to make them feel the pain they so casually tossed at you. And in that second, you were no longer in control. Let that sink in. The person who hurt you was now driving you. They weren't just in your head, they were at the wheel. And you handed them the keys with one thing: anger. The Stoics saw it differently. They never said, don't feel angry. They said, don't let anger make your choices. Because anger isn't strength. It pretends to be, it feels like it. But it's not. It's noise. And noise doesn't build empires. It burns them down. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it?" Read that again. You think you're defending yourself. But what you're really doing is handing over your dignity to prove a point no one will remember a year from now. So here's the Stoic question. Do you want revenge, or do you want power? Because one feels good now. The other lasts. Think of anger like fire in your hand. The longer you hold it, the more it burns you, not them. It scars your character, not theirs. And when it's over, you're left sweeping the ashes of bridges you burned. But there's another path, the Stoic path. The one where you feel the fire rise, but don't feed it. The one where you learn to hold not your tongue, but your position. Picture this. Someone humiliates you in public, lies, distorts, cuts you open with a smile. You want to speak. You want to scream. But instead, you do the unthinkable. You look at them and say nothing. You breathe. You blink. You hold your ground while they unravel trying to shake it. You just changed the story. Because now, you are the force in the room. Not because you raised your voice, but because you refused to. This is what Stoics train for. Not to suppress rage, but to own it like a blade and sheath it until it matters. Because when the time comes to strike back, if it ever does, you'll choose a blow that ends things, not prolongs them. Do you remember the last time you lost control? Not just got angry, but said or did something you now carry with regret. We all do. That memory isn't shame. It's your training. It's the scar that says, I won't let that version of me speak next time. Because here's the truth. No one tells you anger doesn't protect you. It exposes you. It reveals where you're still wounded, where you still don't feel heard, where you still believe you have something to prove. But what if you don't? What if your silence was the most intimidating thing in the room? What if the person who came to make you flinch left unsettled because you didn't even blink? That's not passive. That's lethal self-control. Let's go deeper. The person who insults you is begging for attention. They want your emotion because they feed on it. Don't feed them. Starve their fire. Let them throw punches into the void. Let them yell into your silence. Let them destroy their own position, trying to shake yours. Because when you remain still as the storm passes, you don't win with pride. You win with permanence. Here's your practice. The next time someone tests you, pause. Longer than feels comfortable. Long enough to own the air between you. Ask yourself, will this reaction serve me or sabotage me? Am I choosing to win or to prove? If I say nothing, what will that say for me? Because the strongest voice in the room is often the one that didn't speak, the one that didn't flinch, the one that didn't need to. You've been hurt before. You've been disrespected. You've been made to feel small. And in those moments, your anger tried to protect you, but it didn't. What protected you, what always protects you, is this: your ability to feel pain and still choose control. You don't owe anyone a reaction. You owe yourself your power. So the next time anger knocks, don't slam the door. Don't let it take over. Step back. Let it pass through you. Let it try to provoke. Then speak when silence has done its work. Not a second before. Because when your anger bows to your discipline, you become dangerous. The kind of dangerous no one dares provoke twice. Breathe. Hold. Choose. And walk out of the fire without a scratch. They start slow. A comment behind your back. A look. A whisper that spreads just wide enough to be heard, but never traced. You feel it. Not because anyone said it to your face, but because the room shifts. The energy around you changes. Suddenly, people hesitate when they greet you. They smile, but not fully. They talk, but not about anything real. And deep inside, you know something's been said. A rumor. The temptation is immediate. To correct it, to confront it, to make an announcement. This isn't true. Let me explain. But here's the problem. The moment you chase a rumor, you prove it has power over you. And the person who created it, they win. Not because they were right, but because they got a reaction. Stoicism offers a different path, one that most people never consider. Don't feed the fire. Let it burn itself out. There's a psychological truth called the Streisand effect. It means this: the more you try to silence something, the more attention you bring to it. The louder you scream, "That's not true," the more people lean in and ask, "Wait, what are they denying?" What was once a whisper becomes a headline because you gave it the spotlight. Epictetus said, "If evil is spoken of you, and it be true, correct yourself. If it be a lie, laugh at it." But let's be honest, it's not always that easy. Being lied about hurts. Especially when you've done nothing wrong. Especially when people believe it. But ask yourself this: what does defending yourself really fix? If someone's already decided to believe the lie, is it more words that will save you? Or is it your actions over time, your consistency, your calm that will expose the truth? Here's what Stoics do differently. They stop trying to control what others say and start focusing on what they continue to do. Because the truth doesn't need marketing. It just needs time. Let me tell you a story. A man named Elijah worked at a non-profit. He was kind, committed, quiet. One day, a co-worker threatened by his consistency started a rumor. That guy's only friendly because he's manipulative. He's always scheming. Watch out. Elijah heard about it. It spread. People began to pull back from him. He wanted to speak up, to clarify, to defend his name. But instead, he chose to do one thing. Nothing. He kept showing up early, kept delivering good work, kept treating everyone with respect, even the person who started the lie. And after 3 months, when that co-worker tried to throw him under the bus again, no one listened, because by then his actions had spoken louder than any denial ever could. This is how the Stoic thinks. Let them speak. Let them twist. Let them invent. You keep building. You keep walking. You stay steady, because your character is not up for debate. And your silence. It doesn't mean guilt. It means you're too focused on reality to argue with illusions. Here's a phrase to remember. Your reputation is not your character. Reputation is what they say. Character is what you carry. Reputation can change with gossip. Character stands when gossip dies. So the next time your name circles in rumors, don't chase them, outlive them. Let's talk strategy. You want to respond? Fine. Here's how you do it, the Stoic way. You live in such a way that the lie can't survive contact with your behavior. That's it. No speeches, no public statements, no text threads trying to set the record straight. Just a life that contradicts the narrative daily. Let your integrity become the wall. No rumor can climb. You see, gossip is lazy power. Its influence built on hot air. But presence, consistency, discipline, that's influence made of stone. You don't have to say a word. Your silence, when grounded in truth, says everything. And here's the part most people miss. The person who spreads rumors needs you to react. Because that's what feeds them. That's what validates their attempt to control the narrative. If you explode, they say, "See, look how defensive they are." If you obsess over what people think they've already won, but if you stay focused, still, calm, you take the air out of their fire. Stoicism teaches you to ask, is this noise or truth? Is this worth my energy? Is this real or projection? And most of all, what will the world believe? More your words or your walk? Let them keep talking. Let them wait for your meltdown. Instead, let your silence become a mirror they can't look into. Because nothing terrifies a liar more than someone who simply refuses to acknowledge them. So here's your next move. Don't defend your name. Build it, stone by stone, action by action, in full view of those who doubted you. And when the dust settles, they'll see two things. The lie collapsed, and you never even paused. That's how a Stoic responds to slander. Not with explanation, but with elevation. So next time the whispers start, stay steady, stay clear, stay silent, and remember, you don't fight shadows. You walk in light until shadows disappear. Let's not pretend. Loss doesn't knock. It breaks the door. It takes something or someone and leaves you staring at what's left. You don't cry because you're weak. You cry because something real is gone, and the silence it leaves behind is louder than anything you've ever heard. Some call it heartbreak, some call it grief, but the Stoics, they called it life, because if you live long enough, you will lose. You'll lose people, dreams, versions of yourself. And when that happens, no quote, no lesson, no philosophy will make it easy. The Stoics never claimed to remove the pain. They trained to hold it, not with clenched fists, but with open stillness, because what you can hold, you can survive. And what you survive, you can transform. Grief isn't a curse. It's a chamber, a quiet reflection chamber. The deeper the loss, the longer you'll sit in it. But that's not punishment. That's sacred space. Space for memory, for presence, for becoming. You've been dropped into that chamber before, haven't you? Maybe you're there now. Everything around you is moving, but inside, it's still, too still, and that silence feels like drowning. You don't need motivation right now. You don't need someone to cheer you up. You need to hear this. It's okay to break and not know how to rebuild yet. The Stoics weren't superhuman. They bled. They buried. They lost everything, too. But they never confused grief with weakness. Seneca said, "No man was ever wise by chance, and no soul ever became deeper without walking through darkness." Grief, true grief, is not a wall. It's a tunnel, and silence is how you find the way through. So let's stop pretending that silence is emptiness, that stillness is avoidance. Silence is where healing grows. Not loudly, not quickly, but quietly, in the dark, away from the world, like a root system under earth, invisible, but alive. Here's the paradox. The deeper you love, the deeper you hurt. But would you choose not to love just to avoid this moment? No, because that love was real. And this pain, it's not the price, it's the proof. If grief is the cost of love, then silence is the place we pay with honor. Honor means you don't cheapen it by trying to skip it. You don't numb it with noise. You don't explain it away. You sit in the fire, and you let it teach you. That teaching may come slowly. Maybe the lesson isn't loud. Maybe it's not even words. Maybe it's a memory that returns in a quiet morning, a still breath, a kind thought you forgot you had, and you realize what was lost still lives in how you carry it. The Stoic doesn't fear loss. They fear forgetting what mattered. That's why they go silent, not to disconnect, but to remember. So let's practice that now. Think of the thing you lost. The person, the path, the future you thought you were building. Don't flinch. Don't push it away. Let it come. Let it take up space in the quiet of your mind. Let it tell you what it meant. And let your stillness say this back. You mattered. And I'm still here because of you. No tear is wasted if it teaches you how to stand again. No ache is useless if it shows you what really matters. And no silence is empty if it gives you room to rebuild on truth. One day, the ache will not disappear, but it will become familiar. It will walk beside you instead of crushing you. And you'll realize you don't have to leave the pain behind. You just have to learn how to carry it differently, with less resistance, with more respect, with calm. Grief is not just an ending. It's an upgrade in soul weight. You become heavier, yes, but also more stable, more grounded, more real. And what you lose in lightness, you gain in wisdom. The world will rush you. Move on. Stay busy. Get back to normal. Don't listen. You are not made for shallow living. You are not here to pretend nothing happened. You are here to feel fully, to hurt honestly, and to rise quietly. So take your time. Take your space. Let the silence hold you until you're strong enough to stand again. Not as who you were, but as who you've become. Because loss didn't break you. It shaped you. And what you build from this silence will be the most unshakable part of you. There's a certain kind of pain that doesn't come from being ignored. It comes from being talked at. You've been there. Someone sits across from you armed with opinions, convinced of their brilliance, ready to educate you on a world they barely understand. They don't ask. They don't listen. They just lecture. And somewhere in that moment, something inside you wants to break. Not because you can't handle their arrogance, but because you remember what it feels like to not be heard again. Arrogance isn't always loud. Sometimes it's polite, polished, professional. But underneath it all is the same thing: insecurity, dressed as certainty. So what do you do when faced with that? Do you match their tone? Do you interrupt? Do you fight back? You could silence them with facts, embarrass them with logic, outshine them with truth. But the Stoics offered another path. They would say, let them speak. Let them believe what they need to believe. Don't interrupt the lesson they're giving themselves, because the moment you step in to correct them, you become part of their story, part of their ego's fuel. But when you stay quiet, when you simply observe, they keep talking, they keep exposing, and eventually, they undo themselves. Socrates mastered this. He didn't argue. He asked, not to trap, but to reveal. He would tilt his head and say, "How do you know that?" A gentle question, but devastating. Because most arrogant people don't actually know why they believe what they believe. They just want to be right. And one calm question is often enough to collapse the tower they built. But here's the key. You must ask without ego, without wanting to win. Because if the question comes from superiority, it becomes another form of arrogance. True Stoic power doesn't come from putting others down. It comes from standing so grounded that you don't need to. Imagine this. You're in a meeting. Someone dismisses your experience, talks over you, explains what you already know. Everyone hears it. You feel the sting, the urge to fight for your voice, to restore your place. But instead, you lean back. You say nothing. Or maybe you ask a simple question. Interesting. Where did that idea come from? Silence. They stammer, ramble, try to sound certain. And as they unravel, everyone sees what you already knew. Confidence isn't loud. Arrogance is. Galileo once said, "Truth does not require shouting, only time." The Stoics lived that. They knew the difference between winning an argument and owning your presence. Here's the hidden truth about arrogant people. They don't need to be defeated. They need to be witnessed, because the most painful thing for them is not contradiction, it's no validation. So don't give them what they want. Don't try to prove them wrong. Don't raise your voice. Don't perform. Just let them speak. Let their words echo. Let their lesson teach them. And you stay still. You stay watching. You stay dangerous in your quiet. Because the one who doesn't react doesn't reveal their position, and that is terrifying to those who rely on control. When someone talks down to you, they assume you'll fight back, when you don't. When you simply look at them with calm understanding, they begin to feel how small their noise really is. Your power is not in the retort, it's in the restraint. Here's your Stoic strategy. When faced with arrogance, pause. Let them speak. Ask gentle questions if needed, but never try to prove your worth. Let your stillness reveal the gap between you. And if the room is watching, good. Let them see what real presence looks like. Let them feel the weight of someone who doesn't need to explain themselves to someone still learning how to listen. Because here's the truth. The person who speaks the most often understands the least. The one who listens learns, and the one who waits leads. So the next time arrogance steps into your space, don't fight it. Don't fear it. Don't feed it. Just sit back. Let them show you who they are. Let them teach you what not to be. And when it's done, you won't need applause, or acknowledgement, or revenge. You'll just walk out of the room, unchanged, unshaken, unmoved. And that is the kind of victory only silence can earn. There's a kind of storm that doesn't hit all at once. It begins with whispers, small, subtle, but sharp enough to slice through trust. You hear them in passing. You feel them in the change of someone's tone, the way people stop making eye contact, the way doors start to close without explanation. That's gossip. It doesn't knock, it seeps. And suddenly, you're no longer you. You're someone else's version of you. A distorted image, drawn by second-hand paint and third-hand intentions. And it hurts, because you know it's not true, because you know who you really are. But they only know the echo. So what do? Your instinct wants a megaphone. You want to clear your name, to explain, to call out the lie and demand people listen. But listen closely. Gossip feeds on your reaction. It drinks from your need to be understood. The more noise you make, the more real it seems. It's a paradox. The louder you defend yourself, the more guilty you appear. It's called the Streisand effect. The more you deny, the more people want to believe. And so the Stoics taught a different way, a higher way. Don't lend gossip your voice. Don't give it your attention. Don't make it bigger than it already is. Instead, make your life louder than their story. Let me tell you a story. There was a man named Daniel. He worked in a company that prided itself on team culture. But under the surface, it was a hotbed of comparison and quiet rivalries. Daniel was kind, disciplined. He stayed late, helped new hires, delivered results consistently. But success breeds envy. And one day, a rumor started that Daniel was manipulating numbers, that he was faking results to look good. He heard about it in the silence of the break room, in the shift in how people greeted him. He could have sent a company-wide email. He could have called meetings. He could have gone to war. But he didn't. He showed up every day, early, prepared, focused. He didn't explain. He didn't react. He built, and little by little, the truth emerged. The rumor fell apart under its own weight, because while it was made of air, Daniel's work was made of stone, tangible, visible, unshakable. The people who once whispered began watching, and the man they doubted became the one they trusted most. This is the Stoic shield. You don't battle lies with more words. You bury them with evidence, with integrity, with constancy, with silence, because silence is not surrender. Silence is strategy. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you hear something spoken about you, let it pass. If it's false, why concern yourself? And if it's true, fix it." That's the Stoic formula. If it's true, change. If it's false, ignore. Either way, you stay in control. People believe what they want to believe. You don't control their minds. You don't own their conclusions. But you do own your conduct. And your conduct, over time, becomes undeniable. So what happens when someone spreads gossip about you? You keep going. You live your truth, louder than the lie, more consistent than their claims. Because eventually time exposes everything. Time reveals who's real. Time brings light to shadows. The trick is not reacting in the dark, but building until the light returns. Here's the danger of gossip. It makes you feel like you need to win people back. But stop. You were never meant to be explained to those who only listen to whispers. Let them talk. Let them assume. Let them get bored. Because they will. People who thrive on rumors always need a new target. And when you don't play their game, they'll move on. Don't respond with statements. Respond with consistency, with excellence, with stillness. You don't need to prove anything to people who aren't looking for truth. Your real audience is always watching. The people who matter see deeper than noise. They measure you by how you carry yourself under pressure. And silence, when built on truth, is a presence they can feel. So next time someone tries to define you with rumors, don't explain, demonstrate. And when the dust settles, and it always does, you'll still be standing. Not because you shouted your way to respect, but because you let your actions speak with a calm they couldn't match. You are not their story. You are the storm that stayed still until it passed. Bar. There's a moment in every life when unfairness knocks you off balance. You did the right thing. You stayed honest. You showed up early. You worked late. You followed the rules. But someone else broke them and got rewarded. They lied and got away with it. They betrayed you and people took their side. They played dirty. And you were the one left in the dark. And inside you, something snapped. Your hands shake. Your jaw tightens. You want to shout. You want to expose them, humiliate them, hurt them back. You want justice. You want it now. But here's the truth. What you do next will decide who you become. The Stoics taught this. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy, Marcus Aurelius. Not because you're weak, not because you don't see what they did, but because you refuse to become them. Let's be honest. Injustice makes you feel powerless. And powerlessness breeds rage. That's why revenge feels so tempting, because it gives you the illusion of control. But there's a problem. Revenge doesn't restore your strength. It buries it. Anger tricks you into thinking you're taking your power back. But in reality, you're handing it over to the very thing that hurt you. So what do you do instead? You stop reacting, and you start calculating. You don't let emotion dictate your next move. You let strategy decide it. Picture this. You're a young professional. You spent 6 months designing a proposal clean, clear, innovative. You submit it. 2 weeks later, your manager presents the idea as their own. No credit, no mention, just silence. The whole company applauds. They get the promotion. You get forgotten. What now? You could confront them in the hallway. Start office drama. Air your frustrations at every lunch table. And maybe you'd feel better for 5 minutes. But you'd also look reactive, impulsive, emotional. And just like that, you become easy to discredit. But imagine a different path. You stay calm. You say nothing yet. You gather receipts. You keep building. Next quarter, you quietly present new ideas, documented, demestamped, tracked. You find allies, not with gossip, but with performance. You let the next success be undeniably yours. And when they try to take credit again, this time it doesn't work, because your consistency made you untouchable. This is Stoicism. It doesn't mean tolerating injustice. It means refusing to let injustice change who you are. Let me say something hard. You will be overlooked. You will be underestimated. You will be mistreated. But you will not be broken, unless you break yourself by giving in to the rage. Here's what emotion says. React now. Prove yourself. Make them feel what you feel. Here's what Stoicism says. Observe. Prepare. Strike when the time is right, if it's even worth it. Revenge is loud, but power is precise. Patient. Immovable. It's like playing chess. If someone steals a pawn from you, you don't flip the board over. You keep watching. You keep moving. You play 5 steps ahead. And sometimes you win not by fighting fire with fire, but by letting them burn themselves out. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Injustice will happen. That's not your fault. But letting it turn you bitter, that's on you. Let's go deeper. What feels like injustice is often a test of your ego, a test of your emotional discipline, a test of your vision. Do you want to be right, or do you want to win? Because most people waste their fire on revenge, while the wise turn injustice into fuel. You don't always get to pick your pain, but you always get to pick your response. And response is everything. You want power. Don't try to punish them. Outlive them. Outperform them. Outlast their lies with truth and their shortcuts with legacy. It might take time. It might take silence. But when your moment comes, it will be undeniable. So here's your strategy. Don't act when you're angry. Don't speak when you're shaking. Don't move from ego. Move from principle. Document. Build. Wait. And when they expect you to break, bend the game instead. You don't need to scream for fairness. You build something so solid, They can't ignore it. You don't explain why you deserved better. You become the standard. You don't fight in the mud. You rise above the battlefield. And when they finally look up, you're already 10 steps ahead. Not because you played dirty, but because you played like no one else could. With discipline, with clarity, with strategy. And justice doesn't define you. How you respond does. So, next time it strikes, don't rush into revenge. Stand still. Let the silence sharpen your plan. Then, move not to hurt them, but to build something they can never tear down. That is the Stoic way. Have you ever walked away from a conversation carrying something that wasn't yours? A sentence, a sarcastic smile, a passive-aggressive remark disguised as just being honest. It sits on your chest. It plays on repeat. You go home, rewind it, rehear it, re-feel it. That's what an insult does if you let it in. But what if I told you? Insults don't hurt because they're true. They hurt because you pick them up. Let's pause here. This may sound harsh, but it's the kind of truth that sets you free. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Eleanor Roosevelt. And the Stoics would agree, because insults like fear, anger, or ego only take root if you allow them space to grow. Epictetus said, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. In other words, you gave them the key. You opened the door. You welcomed the poison in. So here's the move. Next time someone insults you, don't pick it up. Let's paint a picture. You're at a gathering. Someone walks up, cocky, calculated, and drops a line that cuts beneath your skin. Wow, you finally dressed up for once. It's impressive you've managed to keep that job this long. I mean, it's cute how you're trying. Now pause. You have options. Option 1, snap back. Defend. Ritagliate. Fuel the fire. Option 2, laugh it off, pretend it didn't sting. But inside, you carry it home with you. Option 3, say nothing. Let it drop. Let them stand in their own echo. Because here's what happens when you say nothing. They're left in the silence alone. Their words bounce and bounce and bounce, until the only person left affected is them. That's the power of not picking up the poison. Your silence becomes a mirror. Their insult returns with interest. They see themselves exposed. And here's what most people don't realize. The person insulting you isn't strong. They're leaking. They're leaking insecurity, fear, inferiority. They just want someone else to carry it. But you don't carry other people's weakness. You carry your own power. Imagine this. You're on a mountain. Someone in the valley throws mud at you. It doesn't reach. It falls short. It never even touches your boots. But the moment you climb down to throw mud back, you've already lost elevation. Don't descend. Don't leave the mountain of your composure just to prove something to someone living in noise. Insults are like bait. They want to hook your ego, drag you into their emotional pond, where they can thrash around and feel superior. But silence. Silence says, you don't get access. Let me give you something stronger. Your silence is not weakness. It is a silent veto. It says, I reject your definition of me. I refuse to carry your narrative. You become untouchable, not because you're numb, but because you're anchored. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man of his time, once said, "Choose not to be harmed and you won't be." Insults feel like harm, but they're only noise. Noise that loses power when you don't amplify it. Let's go even deeper. When someone insults you, they're revealing their own values. They're showing you what they fear, what they wish they had, what they need to believe about others to feel safe. It's not about you. It never was. So why react? Why explain? Why argue with someone who's trying to pull you into a war? They started in their own mind. Here's what a Stoic does. They observe the insult. They study the pattern. They listen, but don't absorb. Because they know the real insult would be lowering themselves. Here's a story. A man was once mocked in front of a crowd, called weak, called dumb, laughed at. But instead of responding, he smiled. He said, "You clearly needed that. I hope it helped." And he walked away. The crowd didn't remember the mocker. They remembered him. The man who didn't flinch. The man who didn't stoop. The man who stayed tall through silence. Now, if you've ever carried an insult for days, weeks, even years, let this be the moment you drop it. It wasn't truth. It wasn't yours. It was noise, projected onto you by someone who didn't know how to handle their own pain. You're not a trash can for other people's insecurities. You don't exist to give their bitterness a home. You exist to grow, to move, to walk in clarity. So here's what you say without saying it. I do not accept. I do not explain. I do not carry your damage. You walk away whole, while they're left holding their own weapon, because insult only stings. If you carry it, drop it, let it rot, and keep building your life in silence, with strength, with power, because the loudest room always turns to face the quietest one who doesn't flinch. There's a silence that comes from weakness, and there's a silence that comes from mastery, a silence that doesn't shrink from the moment, but absorbs it, shapes it, ends it on your terms. Because true power isn't in how loudly you can respond, it's in how deeply you can withhold without losing yourself. You see, silence isn't the absence of reaction, it's the highest form of reaction. It's a reaction chosen with full awareness, a reaction sculpted from restraint, designed to control outcomes, not impressions. When you say nothing, you shape the room. When you hold still, you bend the tension. When you walk away, you become the only person left standing untouched. This is what the Stoics knew. Don't react to chaos. Become the stillness within it. So, when people provoke, slander, boast, or lash out, don't try to match their energy. Outclass it. Not with noise, but with clarity. Not with retaliation, but with direction. You are not here to convince. You are not here to compete. You are here to become so centered, so moved, that nothing beneath you can pull you down. Let others exhaust themselves in noise. Let them swing wildly in the fog. You walk through it calm, certain, unshaken. If any part of this message struck a chord with you, If you've felt the weight of silence before, either as a wound or as a weapon, let me know in the comments below. Tell me where your silence gave you power, or where you're still learning to hold it. And if you're ready to walk this path with us, the path of still strength, quiet presence, and inner command, hit that subscribe button, because the world doesn't need more loud voices. It needs more unshakable ones. See you in the next lesson.